ESPN's college football insider Greg McElroy has spoken out on the most recent Ohio State Buckeye win, and you're going to want to hear exactly what he said. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Columbus Football 365. If you are an Ohio State Buckeye fan, hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down all stuff Ohio State Buckeyes football. Jumping into the quote for today from Greg McElroy of ESPN. He said, Ohio State just aced one of their biggest tests. A lot of people across the country will not acknowledge this, probably because they haven't watched Washington. People are not paying attention to what this Washington team is capable of. They played one of the most dynamic offenses in the country, and on top of that, Ohio State walked into Seattle where the Huskies had won 22 straight football games. So here, Greg McElroy is showing respect to the Ohio State Buckeyes for having such a dominant performance in Washington. Yes, first half was a little bit close. Would have been closer if the Washington Huskies didn't decide to fake a field goal, but Ohio State was still able to work it out. One of the main things that McElroy points out is the fact that this stadium is very, very, very difficult place to play. The fact that it was the first road game for this Ohio State team just made it even harder to play there, and we have to laud how well Julian Sayin has been playing recently. He's not trying to do too much. He's understanding that he is, still young, still not the superstar that he will be just yet. He only had 6 incompletions, threw for over 200 yards at 208 yards, 2 touchdowns with an 88.9 QBR rating, which is what you're looking for out of your young quarterback. When you're on the road, things can go off the handle really quickly, especially when you're facing a team that is as dynamic as the Washington Huskies are, with Damon Williams, that dual threat monster quarterback, with their running back, who is amazing, one of the best running backs in the country right now, and Denzel Boston, one of their top wide receivers. They had dogs on that team, but Ohio State was able to pull through it in a way that we were hoping was going to happen, but it absolutely did. Another thing that Greg McElroy is also talking about when it comes to the Ohio State Buckeyes, he has named them his #1 defense in the entire country. From Sports Illustrated, ESPN analyst Greg McElroy ranks #1 defense in college football after 5 weeks, and he put the Buckeyes on top. On Always College Football, McElroy blended statistics, schedule, context, and the eye test to assemble a top 10. He said the Buckeyes are significantly better than we thought they would be, which moved them from a lofty August projection to the clear #1. So pretty much what that last sentence is saying is, in August, people were projecting out who the top defenses were going to be, and Ohio State was put really high, but now it is no longer a projection. Ohio State has proven that they deserve to be named one of the top defenses in the country, and to me, as well as Greg McElroy, I absolutely agree with him putting them at #1 in the country. Now you can see right now on the screen, Ohio State is giving up 229.3 total yards per game, which is good for second in the Big Ten, behind only the similarly top 10 ranked Indiana Hoosiers. Their defense giving up slightly less yards per game, but they played worse teams than the Ohio State Buckeyes did. They didn't see anyone as strong as the Texas Longhorns. Also, who knows who's better between, Illinois is better than Washington, but the offense of Washington is most likely better than the offense of Illinois. So I do believe that the stats don't tell the full story when it comes to yards per game. Just looking at it on paper doesn't tell the whole story. Ohio State has had harder matchups than the Indiana Hoosiers had at the end of Big Ten play. We're going to come back to it, and I would expect the Ohio State Buckeyes statistically to take over as the #1 defense in terms of yards per game in the entire Big Ten. But that's going to be tough this year because everyone is now saying the Big Ten this season is playing better than the SEC. Historically, SEC has had all the top teams, or maybe not all the top teams, but they've been the toughest conference. But this year certainly looks like it's going to be the Big Ten, with so many top 10 ranked teams in Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. All teams having tough defenses, but as well as offenses that can score on an absolute moment's notice. But one thing that I thought was very, very interesting when it comes to rush yards per game on defense, and just taking a look at the Big Ten's defense overall as a whole, I really thought the most surprising number to me was the Minnesota Golden Gophers only giving up 65.5 rushing yards per game. And if you are, someone who is very aware of what the Ohio State schedule is, you would know that Minnesota is our next matchup. The first game in October is going to be back at the Shoe versus the Minnesota Golden Gophers, a team that I was a little bit worried about earlier on in the season when they beat someone like 70-0 or 79-0. But now Ohio State should really be able to roll over Minnesota. But if that run game is not ready to go, this is going to be a really tough test for them. Even though Minnesota hasn't been playing the toughest of tough teams, 65.5 rush yards per game is something that absolutely is something that we need to be at least a little bit concerned about. Bo Jackson, the rest of our running back room will have their work cut out for them in this matchup. People have been talking about for a couple of weeks now how one of the last things that this Ohio State offense needs to put together, one of the finishing touches, needs to be an improvement on the run game. And when you are sending multiple first-round pick offensive linemen to the NFL and multiple second-round pick running backs to the NFL, of course, your run game has no choice but to take a hit. But it does seem like every single week, the Ohio State Buckeye offense gets more and more cohesive. And I love the way that they are able to make halftime adjustments. First half against Ohio, the offense was a little bit stagnant, but then exploded, came to life, made some explosive plays, and put up a lot more points in the second half versus the Bobcats. And the same thing happened against Washington in the second half. They were really able to put a big gap on the scoreboard between Ohio State and Washington. And really, it starts with the defense. It's fun to talk about Julian Sayin, the best player on the team. I think it's Jeremiah Smith. If you think it's Caleb Downs, I mean, I'm not going to fight you too hard on that, but really the most exciting and most entertaining and biggest names of Ohio State are on the offensive side of the football, even including the coaches as well, if you want to talk about Brian Hartline. But it is the defense of Ohio State that we have to thank for being currently undefeated, and it is why people are so excited for this defense going forwards. And it's something that Ohio State Buckeye fans know that we have something to hang our hat on. In a year where a lot of top teams are starting off with very, very young quarterbacks, like we're seeing Ohio State, of course, Texas has a young quarterback, Alabama's a young quarterback, a ton of teams have young quarterbacks, and really these young quarterbacks they're I'm not gonna say they're struggling, but no one's blowing it out of the ballpark right now. Everyone is kind of still getting their feet wet, even though we're moving into week, we're getting pretty good here, or moving out to week 6 of the college football season. So guys really should be figuring it out, but they're not. So it is fantastic that we have that defense that we know is going to have us in any game, even if we're up against the top team offense in all college football. Not sure exactly who it is, but if we were matched up against them, that defense would be able to bail us out. Just finishing it off here, Illinois, a couple of weeks ago, before the Illinois-Indiana game, Illinois was ranked in the top 10. So that matchup looked a lot scarier than it looks now. However, Illinois, they're still the same team. The number next to their name doesn't change anything. They still have Luke Altmaier, who is an extremely what's it called? We got a lot of experienced. He's a very experienced quarterback, and he's going to know how to bounce back from that loss. And I have no doubt that Illinois is looking for a statement victory after getting absolutely blasted in their last huge game against Indiana. They're going to be looking for some get back against Ohio State in a couple weeks. We have to make sure that, first of all, take care of business versus Minnesota, and then heading over to Illinois, make sure you take care of business there as well. But we know we have that defense to rely on, and it's something I'm extremely excited to see as we go forward in this college football season. But that's what I got for this video. If you have not hit that like button already, please hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Buckeyes.